Okay, welcome those who are attending to the Reconvene hearing 25, which is the industrial zone hearing. Just by way of introductory comments, the reason we're reconvening is that Department of Corrections, who are a submitter, advised they didn't wish to attend the original hearing because they supported the officer's recommendation, which was for community corrections activities to be, I think, restricted discretionary in the industrial zone. And it was later found by an eagle-eyed panel member that the 42A report seemed to be in error. And so the panel posed one of the questions that we sent to the officer prior to the hearing to clarify that, and the officer's reply report, or rather response to questions report, clarified that the recommendation should be that community corrections activities would be non-complying in the industrial zone, and the submitter was alerted to that error and given the opportunity to present to us at a hearing, and that's only fair and appropriate. So we've agreed to that request, and here we are. So we're reconvening just to hear from corrections, and they're on the Zoom call now, I believe. So unless I've got that background wrong, that's how we understand the situation, and we're in your hands as to how you wish to address us on this matter. So thank you for attending. And over to you, Dale. Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, I'll just have a brief summary statement to read out, and then I'm open to answer any questions. With me also have Pip Harrell from the department, who is also available to assist with any questions that you might have.
Thank you. That's fine. Please proceed.
Arapotama, the Department of Corrections, made submissions on the non-compliant status of corrections activity in the general industrial zone of the proposed Selwyn District Plan. Arapotama sought that non-custodial community corrections activity instead be made a permitted activity. Non-custodial community correction sites include service centres and community work facilities. Service centres support probation, rehabilitation and reintegration services. Community work facilities provide a base for community work activities. Community corrections activities are essential social infrastructure and play a valuable role in reducing reoffending. They enable people and communities to provide for their social and cultural well-being and for their health and safety, and therefore I consider the activities and services they provide contribute to the sustainable management purpose of the RMA. Arapotama looks to locate its sites in areas accessible to Pahere and near other supporting government agencies. Due to the unique nature of community corrections facilities, the general industrial zone is among the most appropriate locations for these activities, particularly where community work activities are proposed. There are many examples of existing community corrections activities located in industrial zone sites around the country. Permitted activity status for community corrections activities in industrial zones is sought nationally by Arapotama and has been applied by local authorities within many recent district plan review processes, including locally within the Christchurch District Plan and the proposed Waimakariri District Plan. As community corrections activities incorporate elements of industrial activities, I consider that overall they constitute an activity that is compatible and appropriate within the zone. In particular, the scale and nature of the activity with buildings of a large footprint, parking areas, yards, and equipment and vehicle storage is consistent with the character and amenity of industrial areas. Furthermore, owing to their nature, I consider they are not sensitive to the effects of a general industrial environment, e.g. noise, high traffic movements, etc. They are therefore not prone to reverse sensitivity. Due to the specialist nature of community corrections activities, I consider there will not be a proliferation of them or any impact on the wider availability of industrial land, as would, for example, occur with permitting general office use in the zone. Recognising this, I consider that community corrections activity as a permitted activity would not compromise the role, function and character of the general industrial zone and would be consistent with the following proposed objectives and policies, which are general industrial zone objective GIS 01, which seeks the zone contains a wide range of industrial and other compatible activities. Policy GIS P2, which provides for other non-industrial activities to establish in the zone where they are of a similar scale and nature to industrial activities. And General Industrial Zone Policy GIS P3, which requires that activities that are incompatible with the character and function of the zone are avoided. For these reasons, I consider that General Industrial Zone Rule GIS P18, GIS 18 should be amended to make community corrections activity permitted while retaining custodial corrections prisons as a non-complying activity as set out at paragraphs 6.15 and 6.16 of my evidence in chief. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And just before we take any questions, I neglected to mention that one of our panel members is not able to join us today or by Zoom, but Commissioner Solomon will be catching up on the tape and watching the session, and then when we go into deliberation, she'll be au fait with that. So I just thought I'd mention that. And secondly, the statement you just read out, was that your evidence in chief, Mr. Dale? Was that what you were reading to us?
A summary of that statement, yes, which I'm happy to provide to you in writing by email. Yep.
Yes, I think that would be useful. So thank you. Thank you for doing that, especially your discussion on the policies and objectives. I think that would be useful to have that. All right. Now, look, I'll just hand over to see if we have any questions, and I believe we have at least one. So
thanks for coming to see us. Just clarification. So I assume the difference between the corrections prison one. So that's residential where they're staying overnight, but where you're proposing with having the other activity as community. Was it community? I can't find where.
Community corrections.
Sorry, community corrections. That one would be non-residential, so they're quite clearly different.
Correct. So a corrections prison is a prison in the normal sense of what you would expect a prison to be. So it's a place where people are held within a secure or detained in a secure environment. A community corrections facility does not have a residential component with that. It is essentially an administrative type facility where people who are on community sentences visit their probation officers, where they undertake rehabilitation and reintegration activities in accordance with their sentences. And it's also a base for community work facilities for people who are on community work sentences as well.
So what sort of hours does it normally operate?
Pip might be able to answer that, but I think normal business hours is typical.
Normal business hours, and quite often they'll do a Saturday morning or a Saturday 9 till 2 kind of hours, just depending on the sites, and that's just for the community work component usually. So people can come that might work during the Monday to Friday business week, but have a community work components to a sentence that they have. They can come and do that on the weekend.
Thank you.
Just got one question, I think. In terms of the, Mr. Dale, in terms of the objectives and policies, you mentioned that P2, policy 2, other non-industrial activities are provided for if they're of a similar scale. I haven't got it in front of me, it's similar scale or something of that nature. So how large can the community corrections facilities be? Are they industrial in scale or are they quite small? Ms. Harrell might be able to answer that.
Yeah, that might be one for you, I think.
Sure. They can vary. They can certainly vary in size depending on the location of them. But the largest CCS, the combined facilities where we have both the service centre and the community work component, can be quite large, and they can include a larger kind of office area as well as the community work bit out the back, which usually has a garage, usually some workshop area, and parking, and sometimes can have things like hazardous storage facilities and other gear that they use for offsite community work, trailers, things like that. So the combination of the two, yeah, can be rather large, which is why the industrial sites can often suit those type of facilities.
Right. So do you have facilities in industrial zones elsewhere in the country? I presume you do.
Yeah, we do. All over actually. Some ones that spring to mind. We've got one actually in Christchurch in Kingsley Street. We've got Paraparaumu, Porirua, Manurewa in Auckland, Tauranga and Invercargill. There's others, but there's just kind of a flavour of the spread of them across the country.
I should have asked you where you don't have them. Yeah. So in terms of that reverse sensitivity, you answered the question, or Mr. Dale did, about non-residential component. Is there any other than living on the site? Is there any other aspect of the activity that makes it sensitive to like noisy activities next door, or banging and clattering and trucks coming and going, or you're quite comfortable with setting up in those environments?
We're sorry, Morris.
Yeah.
We're comfortable with setting up in those environments. You can elaborate if you'd like.
I've got no further questions. Andrew, questions?
Yeah, just one question. Thank you. So it was your 6.10. Again, it's a little bit around trying to get an idea of what these activities are. So it's large footprint buildings, parking areas, yards, equipment. So I guess in my mind, I thought it was more of a office space and some interview rooms and maybe an area for meetings. But actually, you're telling me there's quite a lot more to it than that in your paragraph 6.10.
Certainly they can be more than just simply an administrative base. Where there's a community work component on the site, then certainly there would be, it's very typical for them to have large yard areas for vehicle storage, trailer storage, and also storage sheds themselves, which store the equipment that are used for community work activities.
Thank you. And what are community work activities? And are they like, what are they?
Yeah, you go.
So they are usually, they're quite often off-site. So they are activities that support the community. So that can be graffiti removal, picking up rubbish, assisting with landscaping, things like that. They do community work inductions on site before offenders go out in community work parties. But occasionally they can also undertake community work activities on the community corrections sites as well. So in some instances, they've done things like building chairs for parks, benches for parks and things like that, which can be done, just small projects that can be done on site as well, just depending on the requirement of the community.
Okay, no, thank you for clarifying that. No further questions.
All right. Questions, Nicole? All right, no, look, that's fine. Thank you very much for that. We understand the submission you're making, and we'll give it due consideration. And the reporting officer is sitting here listening to your points you're making and the answers to questions as well. So we'll invite the reporting officer to respond to that, because as things stand, the concern, as we understand it, is principally around reverse sensitivity. But I'm interested to know also whether there's a sort of a use of industrial land that might be used by other industry type approach, but we don't appear to. Or there might be something in the Section 42A report on that, but anyway, we'll invite a response on that and we'll consider it in due course. So yeah, thank you very much. We'll adjourn the hearing now, and thanks for coming on.
Thank
and
you.
If you could just send those points through in note form, that would be useful. Thank you.
Will do.
Adjourn the hearing now. Thank you.